First of all, I just want to thank the camp for being able to mobilize so fast.
Last time the people went out, the state police reacted with violence. They reacted with all their, I guess, military machines. So we went out, we stopped the construction for the day. The workers returned back to Mandan. The welders left the site. We were able to mobilize the whole camp. Probably at least 500 people or more left today, and we stopped DAPL for the day. And we went around our 20-mile boundary. We have a buffer zone, 20 miles on each side of the river. So today we drove around that boundary and made sure they weren't working within there. And we also stopped construction for the day peacefully. Nobody was arrested. There was no violence. No one went to jail. So it was a good day for the people today.
Just one baby step. We shut down 5 sites today. 5.
It's a beautiful day. No matter what, we always count our victories, and today Dakota Access workers fled the scene because they saw the numbers that we had.
And I want to thank everyone for your fighting warrior spirit, for coming here to protect sacred water, to remember and for remembering your ancestors. You all, everyone here is a prayer answered by your ancestors.
Fight of Native American tribes in North Dakota against an oil pipeline continues, and the protest camp says it's not going anywhere until the Dakota Access Pipeline meets their demands. The biggest of which is altering the route of the proposed pipeline, which, under its current blueprint, would cross the Missouri River. This creates concern with the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe that their only source of water could be destroyed. But is this really just natives fighting an energy company? The Food and Water Watch gathered public data and suggests that there's many more players involved on the Dakota Access Pipeline side. RT's Alexei Arashevsky breaks it down.
The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe versus Dakota Access, the 6-month-old story which only recently became well known nationwide, only after protesters clashed with the law enforcement in North Dakota. And if you think this is just a bunch of Native Americans fighting against one energy company, think again. In fact, it is a struggle between the alliance of tribes and a hefty chunk of the global corporate world. A recent report by Food and Water Research broke down a very close detail who exactly stands on the pipeline company's side of the barricade. Dubbed "Who's Banking on the Dakota Access Pipeline?", it has a long list of sponsors involved in sponsoring the proposed pipeline, with a lot of names familiar to everyone in America. Now, the Energy Transfer family consists of 4 companies: Sunoco Logistics, Energy Transfer Partners, Energy Transfer Equity, and the Dakota Access. This is a conglomerate sponsored by 38 banks and corporations with investments ranging from $30 million to almost $600 million. You all know these names, and yes, the Wall Street giants are also there. All in all, over $10 billion worth of credits and loans for these companies to develop more oil and infrastructure have been done. The company directly responsible for building the Bakken pipeline, Dakota Access, is directly sponsored by 17 banks, including domestic names like Wells Fargo and Citibank, each contributing around $500 million, and the ones from overseas like ICBC London and Mizuho Bank. The overall contribution to Dakota Access stands at $2.5 billion worth of project-level loans. Needless to say, all these banks are expecting to be paid back within a decade, and thus you can better understand the reluctance of the energy company to stop the construction. Some goose-laying golden eggs indeed. But one question comes to mind: if so much money is at stake, why wouldn't the company alter the pipeline's route so that it doesn't threaten the Missouri River? The Standing Rock Tribe has been looking for an answer to that since March, and now they say they're not going anywhere and they will stay at the protest camp even when the winter comes. Lately, pipeline fighters also delivered their message directly to corporate offices, starting with the branches of the Canadian TD Bank. Their protest at the doors forced a statement from the bank, which invested more than $300 million into that pipeline, saying, "We work with our customers, community and environmental groups and energy clients to better understand key issues of concern and to promote informed dialogue. We also respect the rights of people to voice their opinions and protest in a peaceful way. Our oil and gas sector lending represents less than 1% of our total lending portfolio. portfolio, which doesn't really answer the question as to why the pipeline's route cannot be altered to resolve the issues voiced by the natives in North Dakota. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe has come a very long way from being reported on only by RT America back in March to getting nationwide attention in August, getting strong support from some parts of the US Congress, and even making a speech in front of the UN in Geneva. But looking at what the tribe is really coming up against, one may wonder if they are on an uphill ride. Alexei Rashevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.
Well, as you just heard from Alexei, this story, this battle, it's getting a lot more attention from when we first started covering it back in March. But the blackout still continues on some networks, even though this level of protest in the Native American community, it's unrivaled in recent history. Jim Narikas of Fair and Accuracy Reporting joins me now. Jim, thanks for being here. Look, unprecedented gathering of Native American tribes coming together, huge campout. We have violence, we have attack dogs, we have pepper spray. It's very visual. All the makings of a TV news story. To this day, some networks have yet to cover it. What's missing?
Well, I think that this is a crucial story for not just for Native Americans, not just for the people who live along the Missouri River, but for the planet. This is a discussion about the energy infrastructure that is taking more petroleum out of the ground to burn, to contribute to a global crisis of global warming that is creating all sorts of problems right now and will increasingly create problems in the future. And for NBC and ABC to treat this as a non-story, I think is just incredibly irresponsible. They have decided that it's not worth sending camera crews out to cover this story, which, as you say, is extremely visual. And I think there's a sense that corporate media have that people protesting are illegitimately trying to influence the news rather than just being passive spectators to the news. And so there is this resistance on the part of the decision makers at these big corporations that are covering the news to cover anything that was brought to their attention because of popular mobilization.
Look, I understand this concept of not going out and reporting on every protest. I mean, there are so many protests out there, but this isn't just a little picket line here. This is a huge protest, and as you mentioned, ABC and NBC have yet to cover a single second based on your analysis. What has been your analysis of the coverage that this movement has received on other networks?
Well, there has been a little bit of coverage on CBS. They've done, I think, 2 stories on the CBS Evening News that covered it, not extensively, but more than just a kind of headline reading dismissal. It's been mentioned sporadically on CNN. Fox News has brought it up largely as a way to kind of cast aspersions on Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, for being arrested for vandalism. But the one corporate media network that has devoted some attention to this, I think, is MSNBC, particularly Lawrence O'Donnell, who's actually gone out there and talked to people and tried to get to the bottom of the story, and he deserves some commendation for that.
Right. One of our reporters, when he first came out at the very beginning of it, Alexei Rashevsky, who's been covering this almost since day one, the fact that what he showed us was such a huge movement, and we hadn't heard from it anywhere else yet. You know, we've definitely been trying to stay on this story as well. But what do you attribute to the lack of coverage on this?
Well, as I say, the definition of news that is embraced by corporate media is the actions and opinions of powerful people. It is not about what the public does. It's not about what indigenous people do when they mobilize to try to take control of their own environment and protect the lands that they live on. That is not what they call news, you know, at Rockefeller Center. This is, and I think that we really need a broader idea of news that looks not only at when people are coming together like this, that's a story in itself, but when you're talking about a story that really affects the planet, it is really time for corporate media who live on the same world as the rest of us to consider that these decisions are having an impact on the climate that we all depend on to sustain human life. And if we're not going to start looking at these questions of, do we frack oil to extract all the oil out of, under North Dakota? Do we build pipelines from Canada? Do we remove mountaintops to dig up coal? These are the questions that are going to determine whether we have a habitable planet for human civilization or not. There's really no bigger story for me to be covering.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I want to ask you real quick, do you think mainstream media will turn it around?
I feel like the people at NBC and ABC seem to have decided almost like they've turned their back on this story. They've decided that it's not important and they're not going to cover it. I'm hoping that as the story, people are making their own news, and I'm hoping that corporate media will pay attention to that phenomenon.
And we've seen the power of social media really drive this story forward. Jim Narikas, editor of Fair and Accuracy in Reporting. Thank you so much.